Something happened in the financial world that most people completely missed. While millions of ordinary people were busy paying rent, filling up their gas tanks, and worrying about the end of the month, a silent financial explosion went off. And the shockwave from that explosion is still moving. Gold, the oldest store of wealth in human history, just delivered its best yearly gain since 1979. Not since disco music was on the radio. Not since a completely different world. 1979. And the question that every smart investor is now whispering behind closed doors is this: if gold already exploded, what happens next to silver? If you are interested in money, finance, or changing your financial future, like this video and subscribe right now, because what you are about to learn can change the way you see money forever. Now, I want you to meet someone for a second. His name is Tariq. Tariq is 34 years old. He works a decent job, he pays his bills on time, and every year he tells himself that this is the year he's going to get serious about his money. Every year, January comes and Tariq feels motivated. He opens his banking app, looks at his balance, and thinks, okay, this year will be different. And then life happens. The rent goes up, the grocery bill gets heavier, the car needs something fixed. And by March, Tariq's financial motivation has completely evaporated, just like it always does. Sound familiar? Because Tariq is not just one person. Tariq is tens of millions of people around the world. And here is the part that will genuinely shock you. While Tariq was stuck in that cycle, gold quietly turned every $100 invested 5 years ago into nearly $500 today. Not because of luck. Not because of magic, because of something that has been happening in slow motion for years and most people were simply not paying attention. But here is the uncomfortable truth. This is not a story about the past. This is a story about what is happening right now. And more importantly, it is a story about what is coming next. Because the move in gold, as massive as it has been, may only be the opening act. Let us start from the beginning, because to understand where we are going, you need to understand how we got here. Gold ended 2025 at roughly $4,300 per ounce. To put that in perspective, it started 2024 at around $2,000. That is more than double in 1 year and a half. And the year 2025 alone saw gold surge approximately 66%, its biggest annual gain in over 45 years. Now, those are numbers you would normally see attached to a technology startup, not to a metal that has been sitting in the ground for billions of years. So why now? Why this sudden, almost violent move? And the real question, why do most ordinary people still have absolutely no idea this is happening? The answer starts with something called real yields. And I promise, this is not going to be complicated. Think of real yields like this. Imagine you put money in the bank and they give you 5% interest per year. That sounds good, right? But what if inflation, the thing that makes everything cost more, is running at 6%? That means your money in the bank is actually losing purchasing power even though it is technically growing. That is what a negative real yield means. And for the last couple of years, real yields have been falling. The government is spending more than it ever has. The Federal Reserve has been cutting interest rates. Inflation keeps chewing away at savings. In that environment, gold does not just become attractive, it becomes almost necessary. Because gold cannot be printed. It cannot be devalued by a government decision. It just sits there, quiet and patient, holding its value while paper currencies slowly bleed out. And then there is the central bank story. This is the part most financial news channels gloss over, and it is absolutely critical. Central banks around the world, the institutions that manage entire countries' money, bought gold in enormous quantities throughout 2024 and 2025. Countries that once trusted the US dollar as the foundation of their reserves started quietly diversifying. China, which holds only a small percentage of its reserves in gold compared to countries like Germany or Italy, has been steadily buying more. And once the central bank starts buying, they do not stop quickly. They are in it for the long game, not the next earnings call. But what happened next changed everything. Most people assumed that once gold crossed $3,000 or $4,000 or whatever the next round number was, the rally would slow down. Surely buyers would get nervous. Surely profit-taking would crush the price. And every single time, the price paused, breathed, and then pushed higher. Because the buyers were not retail traders jumping in and out for quick gains. The buyers were institutions, governments, people who think in decades, not days. And when those kinds of buyers are in the market, the rules feel different. Now, here is where Tariq's story connects to yours in a way that might sting a little. Tariq heard about gold. A friend mentioned it once. His brother-in-law said something about it over dinner. But Tariq did nothing. Not because he was stupid. Tariq is not stupid. He did nothing because the moment felt uncertain, because the entry point felt high, because he thought he had already missed it. That psychological trap, the I already missed it feeling, has cost more ordinary people more money than any market crash in history. Because the truth about moments like this is that they almost never feel obvious while they are happening. They only feel obvious in hindsight. I will come back to Tariq's decision in a moment. But first, you need to understand something about silver, because this is where the story gets genuinely fascinating. Silver is not gold's sidekick. People treat it like a cheaper, slightly less impressive version of gold, the way people treat a bus like a cheaper, slower version of a taxi. But that comparison completely misunderstands what silver actually is. Silver is two things at once, and that dual nature is exactly why what is coming may be so powerful. Silver is a precious metal. Yes, people buy it as a store of value, just like gold. But silver is also an industrial commodity. It goes into solar panels, electric vehicles, medical equipment, semiconductors, and hundreds of other applications that modern life depends on. In 2025, silver surged over 130%. Let that land for a second. Over 130% in a single year. And yet, most people have never heard that number. Because gold gets the headlines, silver works in the background. But here's the thing. Silver did all of that with what analysts are calling structural supply deficits. That means the world is using more silver than it is mining. For 5 consecutive years, demand has exceeded supply. 5 years. Not a one-time blip. A sustained structural imbalance that gets bigger every year as solar panel installations grow, as electric vehicles become more mainstream, as emerging markets industrialize. And now, layered on top of that industrial hunger, you have investment demand waking up. You have regular people starting to pay attention. You have institutions beginning to look at silver the way they looked at gold 3 years ago. JP Morgan, one of the largest banks in the world, recently forecasted that silver could average $81 per ounce in 2026. That is more than double its average price in 2025. This is where everything changes. Now I need you to understand something about the relationship between gold and silver, because it is one of the most watched ratios in all of investing. It is called the gold to silver ratio, and it measures how many ounces of silver it takes to buy 1 ounce of gold. Historically, through most of human civilization, this ratio sat somewhere around 15 to 1. 15 ounces of silver equals 1 ounce of gold. Today, even after silver's massive 2025 surge, that ratio is still historically elevated. What that means in plain language is that silver is still cheap relative to gold, still undervalued relative to the metal that already exploded. If silver were to move back toward historical norms, not even fully, just partially, the percentage gains for silver would be extraordinary. Not because someone is manipulating anything, simply because of the mathematics of two metals that have historically tracked each other, with silver always playing catch-up after gold leads. And the floodgates moment, the thing that triggers that catch-up, may already be opening. Let me introduce you to someone else. Her name is Amara. Amara is 27 years old, a recent graduate working her first real job. She has about $300 per month she can actually save after all her expenses. And Amara made one decision last year that most of her friends thought was a little strange. She started putting $50 a month into silver. Not into stocks, not into a savings account that earns almost nothing after inflation, but into physical silver. Her friends thought she was being a little eccentric, a little paranoid, a little old-fashioned. And then silver ran over 100%. Amara's $300 a month did not make her a millionaire. This is not that kind of story. But her $50 monthly silver position did something more important. It made her feel the power of being on the right side of a major financial move. And that feeling, that confidence, that knowledge, that is something that cannot be inflated away. The story of why silver has been consistently undervalued for decades is not complicated, but almost nobody explains it properly. Most people think of markets as perfectly rational, that if something is genuinely valuable, the market prices it correctly. But markets are not perfectly rational. Markets are made of human beings, and human beings are emotional, distracted, and heavily influenced by narratives. Gold has a narrative. Gold has thousands of years of cultural weight behind it. Kings used gold. Central banks hold gold. James Bond does not fight over silver, so silver gets overlooked. Silver sits quietly in warehouses and in the ground, while gold absorbs all the attention, all the financial media coverage, all the emotion. And that disconnect between real-world value and public perception is exactly where the opportunity lives, and nobody talks about this part. The solar panel story alone should be enough to make people pay attention to silver. Every solar panel uses approximately 20 grams of silver, not aluminum, not copper in that specific application. Silver, because of its unique electrical conductivity. Global solar installations are growing at extraordinary rates. Countries from Europe to Southeast Asia to South America are building solar capacity as fast as they physically can. Each panel that goes up quietly removes silver from the available supply. And once silver goes into a solar panel, it is not coming back out. It is not like a gold necklace that can be melted down and sold back. It is locked into the grid, sitting on a rooftop somewhere, generating electricity for 20 years. That silver is gone from the investable market. Now multiply that across millions of solar panels every year, across a decade of accelerating renewable energy investment, and you start to see why that 5-year supply deficit story is not an accident. It is not a temporary blip. It is the beginning of a fundamental structural shift in the silver market. But most people never realize this part. The financial side and the industrial side are now moving in the same direction at the same time. That has not happened in silver for a very long time. Normally, when investors buy silver for financial protection, industrial demand might be soft because the economy is slow. Or when industrial demand is strong, investors are feeling confident about paper assets and not thinking about precious metals. But right now, both engines are firing simultaneously. Industrial demand is at record levels. Investment demand is waking up. Supply cannot keep pace. And the gold to silver ratio is still telling anyone who is looking that silver has significant catch-up potential. Here is a quiet reality that should genuinely unsettle you if you have been sitting on the sidelines. Between 2016 and the end of 2025, gold went from about $1,250 per ounce to over $4,300. That is almost a 250% gain over roughly 9 years. People who were told by financial advisors to keep their money in savings accounts, in conservative bond funds, in low-yield instruments, those people watched their purchasing power quietly erode while gold multiplied. No one came to apologize. No one sent a letter explaining what happened. The system just continued, and the people who were paying attention to hard assets, to gold, to silver, to things the government cannot print, they quietly built real wealth in the background while everyone else was distracted. This is where most people fail, without even realizing it. Not because they are bad at math, not because they are lazy, but because the financial education system was never designed to teach ordinary people how to protect themselves from inflation, from currency debasement, from the slow and silent destruction of purchasing power. It was designed to teach people to be good consumers, good workers, and good savers in a system that benefits from their predictability. Understanding gold and silver, understanding why central banks buy them, why industrial demand is structurally growing, why the gold to silver ratio matters, is not taught in school. It is not in the standard financial advice column. It lives in conversations like this one. Let me tell you about Reza. Reza is 41 years old. He works in logistics, makes a comfortable income, has a family. 3 years ago, Reza sat down and had an honest conversation with himself about his financial future. He looked at his savings account, earning almost nothing in real terms after inflation. He looked at his pension, which he had been contributing to faithfully for 15 years, and he realized something uncomfortable. Everything he had been told to do was designed around the assumption that the system would stay the same, that the currency would hold its value, that the institutions were reliable. And for the first time, Reza asked himself, what if that assumption is wrong? That question did not turn Reza into a conspiracy theorist. It did not make him sell everything and move to a cabin. It simply made him ask better questions. And one of those questions led him to start allocating a small percentage of his savings every month into physical silver. Not everything, not his emergency fund. Just a measured, consistent, boring commitment to holding something real alongside his paper assets. 3 years later, Reza has not gotten rich overnight, but his silver position is significantly up. More importantly, he sleeps differently than he used to. Not because he is avoiding risk, but because he feels like he finally has some control over at least one part of his financial life. But here is the uncomfortable truth that most people are not willing to sit with. The gains in gold and silver did not happen because of a lucky guess. They happened because of forces that were always going to collide. Government spending that keeps accelerating, debt levels that keep rising, currency values that keep slowly falling, industrial demand for silver that keeps structurally increasing. These are not random. These are predictable consequences of very predictable policies, which means the forces driving these metals higher have not disappeared. They are still here. They're arguably stronger now than they were a year ago. And what about gold itself going forward? Major institutional forecasters are now looking at gold reaching 5,000, 6,000, some say even higher, by the end of 2026. JP Morgan revised their gold forecast dramatically upward. Goldman Sachs has been consistently raising their targets. These are not fringe voices. These are the institutions that manage trillions of dollars in assets. When they start moving money into gold and into silver, ordinary people who are paying attention have a narrow window to act before the crowd arrives. I want you to stop for just a moment and honestly think about this. 5 years from now, you are going to look back at 2026. You're either going to remember it as the year you started paying attention, or you're going to remember it as another year you heard about this, thought about it for a few days, and then got busy again and let it slide. And there is no judgment in that. Most people choose the second path. But the people who choose the first path, the Rezas, the Amaras, they will tell a very different story in 5 years. Here is something that does not get discussed enough. One of the most powerful aspects of silver specifically is its accessibility. Gold at $4,000 per ounce is increasingly out of reach for someone who can only save $100 a month. A single ounce of gold costs more than most people's rent, but silver is still accessible. You can buy a 1 ounce silver coin for a fraction of that. You can build a meaningful position slowly, over months, over years, with amounts that do not require you to be wealthy to start. And that accessibility, combined with silver's potential upside, is exactly why silver has historically captured enormous attention from the rising middle class whenever precious metals enter a bull market cycle. The world's supply of silver is not growing fast enough to keep up. The world's demand for silver is growing faster than anyone predicted 5 years ago. The investment case is strengthening as gold leads the way, and silver historically follows with amplified moves. The industrial case is built on the foundations of the global energy transition, which is not slowing down. And the price of silver, even after its extraordinary 2025 performance, is still far below where mathematical history suggests it should trade relative to gold. And nobody talks about this openly enough. The financial media spends its energy on tech stocks, on interest rate decisions, on political headlines. Silver sits in the background, quietly doing its thing. And people like Tariq, people who could have started 3 years ago, 1 year ago, 6 months ago, are still waiting for the moment that feels safe, that feels obvious, that feels confirmed by everyone around them. But by the time a financial opportunity feels completely obvious and safe to everyone, the bulk of the gain is already behind you. That is not pessimism, that is just how markets work. Let me tell you what the smartest financial move looks like for an ordinary person in 2026. It does not look like putting your entire savings into silver tomorrow. It does not look like selling your home or cashing out your retirement. It looks like Amara. It looks like $50 or $100 or whatever amount represents a meaningful but not reckless part of your monthly savings, consistently allocated over time into something real. It looks like education, like this conversation, combined with calm, consistent action. It looks like asking different questions about your financial future than the ones you were taught to ask. The floodgates are open for gold. The institutional money has confirmed it. The central banks have confirmed it. The macro conditions, falling real yields, rising government debt, weakening purchasing power, have confirmed it. And silver, the eternal understudy, the metal that does the industrial work of the modern world while also holding monetary value, is sitting at a crossroads. The historical pattern is clear. When gold runs, silver eventually runs harder. The ratio does not lie. The supply deficit does not disappear. The industrial demand does not slow down. The only question left is a personal one. And it is not really a question about silver or gold. It is a question about you. It is a question about whether you are the kind of person who watches things happen or the kind of person who positions themselves thoughtfully in front of things that are already in motion. Tariq is still thinking about it. Amara already acted. Reza asked himself the hard question 3 years ago and found a direction that felt right. What are you going to do with what you learned today? The greatest financial mistakes people make are almost never made in moments of crisis. They are made in moments of quiet comfort, in moments exactly like this one, when the information is right in front of them and the decision feels easy to postpone. Every week that passes without a decision is a decision. Staying still is a choice. And in a world where the purchasing power of your savings is slowly being inflated away, where gold is at historic highs and silver is structurally undervalued, where the institutions that manage the world's largest pools of money are quietly building their precious metals positions. In that world, staying still is the riskiest thing you can do. You now know more about what is happening in the gold and silver markets than 90% of the people around you. You understand why gold surged 66% in 2025 and why the conditions driving that move are still in place. You understand why silver's dual nature, industrial commodity and monetary metal, gives it a unique and powerful position in this environment. You understand the gold to silver ratio and what it historically signals. You understand why supply deficits matter. You understand why accessible, consistent action over time beats waiting for the perfect moment that never comes. The knowledge is yours. What you do with it is the only question that remains. If you learned something new today, make sure to subscribe to Money Insights and like this video. More powerful financial truths are coming next.